Information-fueled.
Opinion-driven.
This is Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis.
And so, my fellow Americans,
we talk news.
8:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. How are you? Happy Monday to you. I want to welcome on into the program Mitch Silberman. Mitch, we've spoken to you before. Always great to have you on. Mitch, a co-founder of nationwide nonprofit Jewish Republican Alliance. And, of course, here we are in Passover, Mitch. And so I hope you are having a great day thus far. I want to play a couple of audio bites for you. And I like having you on because you bring, the perspective of someone, of course, obviously, as I just mentioned, who is a Jewish but also Republican. And so let's talk a little bit about J.D. Vance is getting absolutely hammered because he said something about Chinese peasants. And I want to play this audio for you. And folks, I don't know if I played this last week, but he's getting blasted for it. J.D. Vance talking about borrowing money from Chinese peasants.
We borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture.
So basically, it seems to me what J.D. Vance is talking about, and there's a great article in Town Hall that I want to point to where they were talking about how China basically has two classes of people. There are the haves in China, and then there are the peasants. And the peasants are the ones that make all of these goods that are then exported or imported into America. Talk a little bit about that, Mitch.
Well, good morning, Dan. As usual, J.D. Vance is spot on. He is so insightful, so brilliant, and he's not offensive. He really isn't. But he's right. China is a very totalitarian society, and the article you cited is very powerful, written by historian Mark Lewis. But it talks about, essentially, he's right. We have this massive trade deficit with them, and it's not the elites that are doing the hard work and the slave labor. It is, as he calls, the peasants. And so he broke it down that way, and the truth hurts, but he's being factually correct.
One of the things I find interesting is, and you watch the news just as much as I do, and so you're very in tune. Yes, exactly, sadly. And so I want to play this audio for you, of course, in real life, you own a wealth management firm. I want to talk a little bit about tariffs. But sure. One of the things that I find interesting is the fact that the Democrats and some in the media are trying to say that Donald Trump engaged in insider trading when he posted on Truth Social, now would be a great time to buy. Of course, we all know the story where he announced a temporary pause on those tariffs for 90 days. So now you have the Democrats out there, and they're trying to, again, accuse Trump of insider trading. And, of course, in my opinion, everyone's favorite useful idiot, Cory Booker on the left, has been out there saying that the administration profited from the tariff announcements. And so Kirsten Welker, to her credit, actually, this is a minute 39 of Senate Democrat Cory Booker, who spent 25 hours talking in the Senate chambers about how bad Donald Trump was. Well, he's got nothing to say when Kirsten Welker actually asks him for evidence.
Do you believe that Democrats have any real evidence that anyone in the administration profited off of the president's policies and announcements, or is this just a fishing expedition?
Here's the problem with Donald Trump and congressional Republicans is our whole system was designed to have checks and balances. Now, Trump has designed an administration like none we've ever seen before. He is attacking the very agencies that are supposed to have independent oversight of these kind of actions. So we see him hiring people based upon their loyalty, not based upon their expertise. The real group that should be holding investigations and accountability.
Notice he's not answering the question.
And even just oversight is Congress.
But is there any evidence, Senator? Do you think there's any evidence that anyone profited off of these tariffs?
There is enough of an offense here. There's enough smoke here that should demand congressional hearings. We are a separate and equal branch of government. The Constitution lays out very clearly that Congress is not supposed to be spineless and submissive. It is supposed to hold up oversight over the president. These are real, legitimate, justifiable questions, and not to have hearings, not to do any kind of oversight undermines the faith we have in our government, undermines the trust we need in our nation right now.
Yeah. He just bloviating. He's not saying anything.
This kind of symbols or signs of corruption. Congress should be doing its job.
So, in other words, he doesn't have any evidence. Mitch, what do you say?
Yet another filibuster from this guy. They are grasping at straws, Dan. They have not. Listen, President Trump, I believe, is the only modern-day president whose net worth actually went down after he left the presidency. He's not in it for the money. When you're that wealthy, Dan, when you're a billionaire, and he is the most scrutinized individual probably in the history of the world, he's not going to do something foolish and self-serving like insider trading. They're grasping at straws. They have nothing. They need desperately to get him. As you've said, they have no message. They have no messenger. They're coming after anything that they can do to try to get him. And that's all it is.
And I think that is why, and I don't know if you heard, but in the previous segment, I was talking about Stephen A. Smith, who, of course, if you're a sports fan, and I believe that you are, that you know that he is an analyst on ESPN. Yep. And he is now saying that he would be open to running for president. I think that tells you that the Democrats need somebody. And I'm going to state what I'm going to say, then I'm going to let you answer as soon as we look at the traffic. But here's what I would say about Stephen A. Smith. Number one is they need, if they have any chance whatsoever, they need somebody that does not have that Democrat stink on them, because their party is down to like 22% approval rating. That's number one. And number two, they need somebody who has actually criticized the Democrat Party and not been canceled, because we know that this is the party of cancel culture. So he is now saying that he might actually run, and there are a lot of Republicans, Steve Bannon being one of them actually, who has come out and said this is the guy that worries them. I'm going to get your thoughts on this as well. Mitch Silberman is joining us, co-founder of nationwide nonprofit Jewish Republican Alliance. The conversation continues next. Time to check the roads on WTN. High of 82, partly cloudy, possible rain tonight around 9 or 10 o'clock this evening. Appreciate you listening to Super Talk 99.7 and Nashville's Morning News. All right, Mitch, what do you think about Stephen A. Smith walking away from a 5-year, $100 million contract to rescue the Democrats?
I'm very suspicious this will actually play out. When you're in the entertainment world, as you know, Dan, I grew up in the Hollywood area as a child actor, and these people are used to being idolized. They're not used to being confronted or criticized. Many years ago, Rob Reiner tried to run for California governor, and the moment he was challenged, confronted, he was out. So Stephen A. Smith, is it for real? I would say time will tell. Doesn't concern me. As I mentioned, the desperation of today's Democrat Party is such that they need somebody to give them a message and someone to be that messenger. And right now, he's their current flavor of the month. So I'd be very suspicious if this actually plays out that way, Dan.
Yeah, and you know, my final 2 cents on this is you're absolutely right. You know, a lot of these guys, although I will say that Stephen A. Smith is not one to run from being criticized, but you're right. And it seems to me like this is an ego stroke. I said this in the previous segment. A lot of these folks like to have people who are important people come to them and say, won't you please run for president? So we'll have to see if it actually comes to fruition. You and I have spoken before about Mahmoud Khalil, of course, now a judge has decided in Louisiana that he can indeed be deported. This is a Louisiana immigration judge, and I was explaining to folks, you know, this is the guy who led the anti-Israel protests or rallies, whatever you want to call them, on the campus of Columbia University in New York. And so now they've just decided, at least this one judge has decided that, yes, he can be kicked out. Now, this is going to probably have more stops along the way as it makes its way to the Supreme Court. But at least for today, this is good news.
Oh, absolutely. But the bigger issue here, Dan, how frightening is it that the President of the United States the chief, the commanding officer is not allowed to be the executive. It's this judge shopping of the left trying to get someone who they know will rule against him and essentially us. And yes, of course it's good news, but why it shouldn't even be here? Why can't this president of the United States really act like the president of the United States? They didn't do this to Biden when he opened the border, when he illegally forgave student debt. But now all of a sudden they're so concerned with law and order and equal branches of government and the Constitution. They were silent during the Biden era in these issues.
One of the things I find interesting is, and of course, obviously, and in your line of work, there's the battle over tariffs and its impact on America and our economy. What are your thoughts, just broadly speaking, on these tariffs? And are they eventually going to hurt or help Donald Trump, or is he just in America, or is he just negotiating?
Well, obviously, this is partially part of the deal. He loves to win. He's fighting on behalf of Americans. He said a long time ago, Dan, that they're not after him, they're after you and me, and he's in the way. So the tariffs, it's interesting, the framing. The left says, he started a tariff war. So what did we have in the past? A tariff peace? Do we have tariff fairness? Well, how come 170 countries are allowed to put a tariff on us, but the moment we want to reciprocate, it's the end of the world as we know it? So I think ultimately he wants free and fair trade. He wants the Americans to stop being treated as a piggy bank and frankly as suckers. And yes, it's also part of the deal where he wants to bring. I mean, listen, how many trillions of dollars? You'd know this. How many trillions of dollars have already been committed to come here in the U.S. because of the things that he's doing with the tariffs and otherwise? And It's brilliant. He really fights for and loves and values the American middle class, and that's what this is all about.
One last thing here, Mitch. Of course, we have, I don't know if you've heard this morning, but the governor for the state of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, his home, the governor's mansion, was firebombed. And, in looking at who this guy is, it looks like this may have been based on anti-Semitism. He has also come out against this particular guy. Some are trying to paint him as a guy who is MAGA, but it turns out that this guy is anti-Semitic. He hates Donald Trump. I would make the argument that he hates Donald Trump because Donald Trump is pro-Israel. And so I think talk a little bit about, and you and I spoke about this before, but the anti-Semitism that is on the left. And we see this often where on the left, we see them attacking Israel at every turn.
Yeah, sadly, ever since October 7th, anti-Semitism has become far too normalized in the Democratic Party. And I'm sure this guy's an anti-Semite. Josh Shapiro is a very Jewish name. You and I are not fans of his work and his policies, but he does not deserve to be attacked, and he should be protected from any kind of attack like this. But yeah, it's become very mainstream in today's Democrat Party. Now, I'm not saying every Democrat hates Jews in Israel. There's no way. Right. But when you hear of radical anti-Semitism, you know it's coming from the left. And to pick up on what you said, President Trump has assembled the most rabidly pro-Israel, pro-Jewish cabinet in American history. And for that, I am so grateful.
How can folks find out more information on the Jewish Republican Alliance? Do you guys have a website? I think you do.
We do. We also have a handle. So it is www.jewishrepublicanalliance.org, not .com. And also on X, it's @JewRepChat.
All right, Mitch, always great to have you on. Have a great rest of day and rest of week as well. It is 8:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, when you look at the anti-Semitism, just to piggyback on what he said, the boycott, divest, and sanction movement within the Democrat Party is just insidious because they're trying to destroy Israel's economy. So a great analysis, as always, from Mitch Silberman. It is 8:21, and Joan Jones is in the WTN newsroom. Joan, what's coming up?
We'll tell you why some MTSU students are being kicked off campus and why so many people are interested in an 11-minute rocket flight today. Those stories coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.